If we can come to order, please. To get the gavel out. Evening all, how are we? Thank you. So good evening, welcome to the full council meeting, Wednesday the 6th of May 2026. Just a special welcome to Dan Watkins, our new Director of Operations, who started with us almost a month ago now, isn't it? And of course, next to Dan, you've got Steve Facer, the Director of Resources, Anne Banks, who's the RFO, and of course, we've got Will, Harriet, and Laura with us as well. So just a welcome to all the officers this evening. So we will get started then. Item number 1 on the agenda, as this is the annual meeting. Just a reminder, sorry, in front of you on your cards, you'll remember that we adopted the Civility and Respect Pledge a couple of meetings ago. So I just draw your attention to that this evening. And we'll go into item number 1, election of mayor for 2026-2027 civic year. 2 nominations on the table, and we'll start with the proposer for Councillor Joanna Kenny. I believe that's Councillor Carter. You've got 4 minutes, if you wish to say anything, Sandy.
It's a great pleasure for me to nominate Joanna Kenny, because as a councillor, she's the oldest serving councillor on this council. When I first came on this council in 2005, she was the mayor at that time. But since then, she's been one of the hardest working councillors I've ever known. She also was there with the neighbourhood plan, which was 5 years hard work, and she delivered for Newquay, and it's made a vast difference in the planning issues on this council. She's also been the prospective parliamentary candidate for the Liberal Democrats. She's served Newquay for many years, and I think she'll make an excellent mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Carter. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Spry, are you seconding? Yes. Do you want to say a few words? Microphone.
I totally agree with Sandy. Joanna's a wonderful person to work with. She's got huge experience, and I would really like to see her as mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Spry. Councillor Kenny, did you want to say anything on your nomination?
Please. I find it quite odd to have you in the chair, but never mind. I am standing because I am angry. Not because we have someone trying to squat permanently in the role of mayor in defiance of all the council's history and conventions, when we had a competent, hard-working deputy mayor who had every right to look forward, and was doing so, to taking on her year of office. And incidentally, by stopping this, nobody else gets a chance, nobody else moves on. For that, I would be just cross. Bullying is what angers me. I hate that there has been too much of that in this over the years in this council, and on
a public order thing, I don't think is it 2A or something that we're not allowed to use personal insults and comments like. Okay, but you're aware of that.
I'm well aware of it.
Okay, so can I have a proposer for myself, Councillor Drew Creek, for Mayor for the civic year 2026-2027, please? Did you want to say anything, Councillor Slade?
Yeah, well, I haven't been bullied. I just think the reason why I think Drew needs to continue for mayor is there's too much unfinished business. The main thing that I know he was pushing for was for services for young people in the town. And I think the two signature policies of that was the building of the new play park on Mount Wise and the opening of the youth centre. Now, both of those things have been frustrated by previous administrations, and I think if you start a project of that magnitude, I think it's important that he finishes it off. The other thing I'd like to say is that he has also, with Councillor North, has been quite instrumental in restructuring all the staffing, which is going to make the whole town council's functioning much more efficient. And that's still a fairly new process that is still like finding its legs. And I think it's quite important that the mayor who led that process is the one that sees it through so that we can know it's operating properly. That's the good thing. On the bad thing, Councillor Kenny, the reason why I would not be voting for you is because I was stunned to see at the Cornwall Council vote on the glyphosate spraying that I believe you voted for the amendment that would have meant there was more glyphosate spraying. But it's that two-hatted thing that I've got a problem with. It's because you are a town councillor as well, and you sit on this council, and you know that we've got a biodiversity policy that says we don't want glyphosate sprayed in town. And you also are aware that we'd set our budgets for that year. So you knew that it was like we had a gun to our head. Haven't finished yet? We had a gun to our heads, and you were forcing us to accept a policy that you knew we were against. So I'm not comfortable with a mayor who will supposedly represent the town council here and then go to a separate chamber of Cornwall Council and vote against the policies of that same town council. So that's why I won't be voting for you, and I'll be voting for Councillor Creek.
Can I call on the right of reply, please?
What's the what
I
part of the standing
right
order?
of reply when I've had a direct accusation against me.
I'm not. Okay, by all means.
What I voted for was an amendment which said that every town and parish can make up their own mind. Personally, I voted for the version because I totally agree with everything was said, probably not in the terms it was said, but I totally support that there was not sufficient consultation with parishes and town councils, but many of them really want it. If you look at Truro, where they're actually already using it, what the amendment was saying was you can have a choice. Now, I was anticipating that Newquay would say that they wanted to do their own thing, that they would take the money that Cornwall Council would offer them, and then they would run their own thing. I was quite surprised when I saw all the responses where you appear to be saying, no, we want Cornwall Council to do it, because as we all know, it is almost impossible to do it, and the difficult stuff. So I'm not voting against the council. I was really, really sorry. I've been accused of voting against the council. I haven't quite finished. Double-hatted councillor.
You've had the right to reply, Councillor.
Yeah, can I just do the double-hatted councillor?
I'd like to get back to the business.
Councillor Creek is also a double-hatted councillor.
Okay, thank you.
Vote against. That's a complete
Okay, if we
policy.
can have some order, please. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Councillor Slade. Can I get a seconder, Councillor Williamson? Did you want to say a few words?
Yeah, and I will. I am supporting Councillor Creek because I think he has done an amazing job in the two projects that you've mentioned, Councillor Slade, but also many others, from simply things like getting the the lollipop person for the schools, as well as absolutely exponentially increasing and improving our relationship with Boardmasters, which is probably one of the biggest national events that we have in this town. Bringing the community together through multiple different events, including Christmas and others. And I think what he has achieved in 2 years has been exceptional and positive, and building new things for the future. I think a one-year term is very difficult to achieve any substantial changes. And I think personally, a 2-year term should be the norm. I have done research to see what happens in the other places in Cornwall, and actually 2 years is often the norm, if not 3, if not more. So I don't think we as Newquay need to be seen as a kind of 1-year pony for the mayoral thing, because actually that really limits what somebody can achieve in that time. I'm also not aware of Councillor Creek bullying anybody, but I am aware that he has received quite significant, really cruel accusations, which he is, I can't see those. So that's why I'm voting for him. On a very, very, and he knows this because I have told him this repeatedly, on the absolute, I will not vote for him again this time next year. I have also been reassured from him that there is no way he will stand again next year. So that is absolutely where I am.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. I'm going to choose to blow past some of the previous comments that were made by Councillor Kenny, and I'm sad to see that politics has been brought into this chamber in this way, and not least of all, unfounded accusations. I'll keep this brief, because I think actions clearly speak louder than words, and you'll know where my heart is when it comes to Newquay. I moved here in 2009, and honestly, this town has changed my life in that time. My wife and I got married here at Lusty Glades Beach, and we've had 3 wonderful children who are growing up here, and we have firmly put down our roots here. And every single day I'm reminded why we made that choice. This place is special, and the people in it are special. Being your mayor hasn't felt like a role to me, it's felt an absolute privilege. And what we've achieved together over the past 2 years as a council, as a team, genuinely makes me proud. The way we've reshaped this council, how it operates, thinking strategically, trusting our officers, focusing on outcomes that actually matter for residents, that's all of us in this room. But I'd be lying if I said that I felt that the job was finished. The staff structure and scheme of delegation work is still in its infancy. We'll discuss that later on in the agenda, and what that looks like moving forward. And I want to make sure that that's bedded in. Mount Wise Play Park is about to become a reality. That's £150,000 worth of investment breaking ground this summer. And I want to be here for that, not for the photo opportunity, but because I know what it means to the families in this part of the town who will utilise it on a daily basis. And bringing back the youth centre to Newquay, keeping that resource in our community hands, that's too important to lose momentum on now. So yes, I'm asking for 1 more year, not because I think I'm irreplaceable, I absolutely don't, but because I care too much about seeing these things through to walk away at the final hurdle. I know that this would be a first for Newquay, and I respect that. Other Cornish towns have seen longer tenures, as Councillor Williamson suggested, but I understand our town has its own traditions, and I respect that. What I want to be clear about is this is 1 further year to finish what I started. Whatever you decide tonight, serving alongside each of you has genuinely been the honour of my life. Thank you. So I think Laura is going to come around with some voting slips. If you can mark an X in the box that you wish to vote for the candidate for mayor for this civic year.
So with 9 votes, Councillor Creek is duly elected as Mayor for 26-27. The other votes were 6 for Councillor Kenny and 1 spoiled vote.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you, councillors, for putting your trust in me once again for this coming civic year. We move on to item number 2, which is the election of the Deputy Mayor for 2026-27. I understand Councillor Brooke will propose. Councillor Thompson, did you want to say anything? Councillor Brooke, you've got 4 minutes.
Yeah, it gives me great pleasure to nominate Councillor Thompson for the role of Deputy Mayor in the next civic year. I'll just list a couple of things that I think are to her credit. I think she has been instrumental in pushing forward the development of the youth centre. She has helped to organise Christmas lunches for young carers. She's worked very, very closely with Newquay and Bloom to develop many parts of the town, to her credit. She's been Vice Chair for the Saints Coast CAP. She's been organising various environmental discussions around that. She's helped create resilience within the Newquay Emergency Plan, and she's secured DEFRA funding for Priority Wood. So I could go on with some of the things that she has done, but I think that's probably enough of me for one night.
Thank you, Councillor Brooke. And seconder, Councillor Wright, I understand?
Yes, I would second everything that Councillor Brooks has said. I think working with Sarah has been an absolute joy over the last year, especially on the youth centre development, because we started on that about 3 years ago now. So that's been an absolute pleasure and a joy. And I see how hard Sarah works, and the development of the library garden is a big part. And I don't think you mentioned that one. So there's another one that we should bring to everyone's attention as well. So I am very, very happy to second Sarah for Deputy Mayor for this coming civic year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Thompson, did you want to say anything?
No, I think no, I don't. So.
Very good. Thank you very much. I assume we're just doing show of hands for this one. All in favour? I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
So we move on to item number 3, which is apologies. I understand we've got apologies from Councillor North, Councillor Wilton, Councillor Motter, Reverend Claire Anderson. Is that it? Yeah, thank you. Item 4, interests. To receive declarations of interest. We'll do those as and when. If you feel like you've got an interest in something on the agenda, please make yourself aware to the chair. Item 5, minutes. That's the minutes of the full council of the 4th of March 2026. I'm going to assume that you've all read those. Does anyone have any queries or questions with those? No? I'm happy to propose. I have a seconder. Councillor Thompson, all in favour? Thank you, unanimous. Excuse me. Matters arising. I don't believe we've got any matters arising. Does anyone have any matters arising from the minutes of the 4th of March 2026? No. Perfect. So then we move on to item number 7, which is the committee minutes and reports. And I'll pass over to the Chair of Governance and Resources, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Yeah. So we've got a bit of a list here, a bit of a pile. I presume, do I need to do them all individually? Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so recommendations then for the release of £10,000 from the ITEMR. Do I need to say anything else about that? No. Has anyone got questions about? Yeah, so I'm happy to propose. Seconder for Councillor Slade, thank you. All those in favour, unless there's, yeah. Brilliant, thank you. I think that's everybody. Second one, 7B, recommendation of governance and resources for, yeah, BI. Right, let's go into this. Oh, wrong column. Right, wrong button. Right, so can I put do all the grant policies can they can be put together. So there's three documents there, really, the grants policies that we okayed at the GNR meeting, so putting through here for full council. So I'm happy to propose these if I seconder. Thank you.
I'd like to speak against the proposal that came from GNR, because it's coming to this full council for hopefully a discussion as well as opposed to just voting.
Sorry, Councillor Jacobs, can we just get a seconder before we move on to any debate that needs to happen? Is that okay?
Councillor Slow, thank you. Jacobs, do you want to?
Yes, so there'll be two things that are coming up in this full council today that I feel like are moving democracy backwards in terms of the town council. And the first one is this grants policy, because what this policy does is it gives the decision making on grants that come from the council to one officer under a certain amount of money, and then two council officers when it gets to I think it's up to 2,500. Now, the committee structures are there for us to represent our communities, to be able to support the things that we believe are best for Newquay Town. And as a person who's representing the public, I'd like to think that councillors can have an impact through the types of grants that we support. In terms of the Community and Tourism Committee, it's probably been one of the most one of the most effective things that comes to council, in that we can really have a good discussion around those types of funds that come in. And when I say it's effective because we can look at what the community needs. We're able to look at what's happening more strategically in the town and decide whether that grant actually fits. So to lose that opportunity for that to go to purely just one officer, I think is moving our democracy backwards. And actually, I would like to speak against that and ask that the council rethink our proposal, the proposal on the grant structure. I was actually one of the people who asked for a re-look at our grants policy, but I asked for it to be re-looked at in a way that we could open it up to even to the wider community having more of a say on how we spend our precious small amount of money that goes back to the community. I suggested things like participatory budgeting, where you can actually invite members of the public to help vote and decide. And actually what we got was a policy that, instead of opening up democracy, actually gave it to one council officer decision making. I think that's literally the opposite of what I was trying to get at. So I would ask that the council vote against this recommendation, and that we can that we can re-look at it with a view to opening up decision making, not closing it down. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jacobs. Councillor Kenny.
Two different items. I'm not against what you're saying, Jessie. Sorry, Councillor Jacobs. Were you going to make a proposal to refer this back to whatever committee? Because I would certainly second that. My second question is on this, because we went through this before, the £250 councillor grant that we went through. It's not a huge sum of money, but we had to go through all sorts of bells and whistles, that's the wrong expression, to actually get the 250 out. So is there a proposal, a routine of what's happening there, or does the councillor make up their minds, or is that going to be, are we going to have to go cap in hand to an officer and explain why we want to give a grant to a particular function? Personally, I think the whole thing needs to be reviewed again, but that's a specific question.
I can answer that, Councillor Kenny. It's set out in the policy that in terms of the £250, the committee clerks would sift those applications that come in, but the onus is on the member of the public to talk through their project with the councillor. The councillor is in agreement with that project. They tell us that they're in agreement with that project, and we action that, and that grant is then issued. So it's not us making a decision around those councillor grants at all.
That sounds a lot better than the last one, where we actually had to get approval from two other councillors, which was, I think, caused quite a bit of aggro at the time. So that sounds more reasonable. But I do think there is some, it is not totally clear what's happening on this policy. So if you were going to propose that, Councillor Jacob, I would second.
Yeah, I propose to refer it back.
I wasn't quite sure what happens with the £250 if it's not allocated. Does it roll through to the next year, or does it get lost, or where does it go?
Okay, so it hasn't rolled forward in previous years, is my understanding, but it's just gone back into the general grants pot, so it gets used for grants. So if it doesn't get allocated and used, it will eventually get used for community grants. I can also come back, if I may, Chair, in terms of the officer decision making. For anything that's up to £1,000, that's over the £250, then that would be an officer decision. But if there's a grant that comes in that's £1,000 up to £4,000, 2 officers would screen that, score it, and then refer it to councillors via email of the councillors of the G&R committee. And if you then want to support that, you can do that by majority. But if you want to call it in for a presentation, you can also do that through that process. So the decision ultimately doesn't rest with the officer. We screen it and score it to make sure that it aligns with all the things that it says in the policy, to see if there's alignment with your corporate plan, because that's also a good thing to know, and to see if there's any match funding that comes forward with that, and that tests that they are an organisation that's got a bit of track record around what they're doing and what their processes are and their governance arrangements are, and if the project actually stacks up as a fundable and feasible activity. Where it might be an event-orientated activity or something specialist in nature, we'll consult with our events manager to get their input around that, to see that that fits corporately again with the event strategy that you've got. So it's not officers trying to take away the decision-making process. We're just trying to score them, screen them, and then put them forwards to you for you to decide whether you want to approve that project or bring it in for a presentation.
Right.
I have one thing to add and then a question. So the first thing is, as councillors, if we have £250 in a little pot for us to give out to community groups, there's no way it should be rolling over, because there are so many community organisations in our town who need that bit of money, a little bit of seed funding, a little bit of match funding, and if they're not coming knocking on your door, you need to be out there finding out who they are so we can share that money amongst them. And then the other question is about this new process. Obviously, this is a new proposal, and I completely understand the reasons why, because as I've been involved in community projects outside of the Town Council who haven't been able to get their funding because we've had in-quorum meetings and the frustration and the challenges that causes, I understand that having a slicker process will mean that barrier hopefully will be reduced significantly. If we were to test out some of the things that Councillor Jacobs is suggesting in terms of, widening participatory budgeting and bringing the community in to make some of these decisions, is there something that we could trial? If this is something that we're doing now and this is a decision that we make and we do this for a year, is there something that we could do and change and adapt, put in new terms of reference in a year's time where we could move towards a participatory budgeting so that we can start to engage our community now to say this is something the Town Council would like to move towards, but we need your engagement, because we know that community engagement is challenging. So if we were to trial something, could we look at this as something we do kind of in the future? Sorry, everyone.
I think that's certainly something that would have to go back to committee to look at, because obviously whatever you put into a budget, if it's not there already, it's going to have an impact on precept next year and budget setting. I think from a participatory budget point of view, I think anything you would want to do, you'd want to do it meaningfully. So you wouldn't want a £7,000 budget, you want something substantial to actually not raise expectations and then everyone turns up and there's only £50 here, £100 there. So I think it needs to be something, if you're going to do it, substantial, and it should be well thought out by committee. I think tonight we would not be able to come up with something on the fly. I think it's probably best.
Councillor Jacobs.
Yeah, I think what I would like to do is to be able to refer it back to have some consultation with the councillors, which I did ask for as well, that we would be able to input into any future grants policy, but we didn't get that consultation. We were just presented at GNR with a policy to agree to, and I don't think that was a fair process. And so upon consultation, I believe that that's where we could get some new ideas for how we do use our grants, and hopefully come back to full council with a proposal that fully takes on board all of our members' ideas about what community grants could look like in the future, as opposed to voting through this, which we just haven't had a chance to really look at.
Just as just one quick point on that, I think we did go through GNR, we talked about it, and then it was brought back to GNR as a proposal, which we discussed last week. I know that you didn't agree, Councillor Jacobs, and there are areas in which I have my reservations, but it was definitely spoken about. Councillor Hubbox and then Councillor Morris.
I wanted to ask how much funding hasn't been able to be accessed due to in-quorum meetings. If that's what's really making this feel necessary, I wondered how much money we haven't been able to allocate, just so we can really understand the scale of the problem, please.
I haven't got the exact figure, but I would guess around £3,500 this year, which out of £7,500 is a fair amount of money. And a lot of that as well, some of those grants have gone through email chains to be released. And the reason that this small amount was done was because the feedback that we've had from community groups is that the council hasn't become a reliable funding source because the committee meetings don't meet. And the whole idea was that you've got this funding, you want to give it out to community groups. We have a structure in place for scoring and everything, so it's all fair and just, and there's no like picking one person over another. And that was the reason behind it. So the smaller people can actually get their funding when they need it, rather than feeling they can't actually go to us for money and be relied on. And that was the process behind this and thoughts. It's about what's actually happened and how we can support the community over, you know, our committee structure, which was stopping that.
Councillor Morris and Councillor Williamson.
It's my point again about not being contacted by anything on GNR. We've known nothing about this. I've had many that have come to me and I've just said, sorry, there's nothing we can do to help, because we physically can't, because I've never been told, because I'm not on GNR. And I've been saying this for the last 6 years, that we're never consulted if we do not sit on GNR.
Just as a reminder, members, obviously, even if you're not a member of a particular committee, you can attend those meetings, and obviously all of the minutes of those meetings are available to you, including all of the policies which are ultimately ratified by this meeting once a year. Councillor Morris. And just before I go to Councillor Williamson, just as a reminder to councillors, particularly those that haven't been with us as long, we used to have the community chest until it was cut a number of years ago by previous administration. We're bringing it back this year so that we can really help those smaller community organisations that need that money, and getting that money out the door quickly is key. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you. I had 2 points. I can remember one of them. The other one might come back. The one I can remember is I appreciate that time frame, and that, you know, people need to make plans, especially if it's events or whatever. But could there be a kind of midway house of, you know, these are the published dates, we publish them every year. Should your GNR meeting not take place for whatever reason, what's the word, kind of default or whatever, the backup system will be that it will be reviewed by this process instead, so that actually we give that certainty to people who've made lots of time and effort to apply for funds, and so they know when they get that response. Because if they're waiting to press the financial spend button on a really important community project, it's down to us to do that. I know in planning, for example, people put their planning applications in and they need us to review them so that they can get on with stuff. So maybe if the GNR meeting doesn't happen, well, then there's a 5-day working period where it'll get reviewed, or a 10-day working period where it'll get reviewed by an officer, and then a decision will be made regardless. So something, I'm not saying that is the answer, but maybe consider something like that. Also, I'm aware that sometimes this is the second point I was going to make. The squeakiest wheel gets the most something. Yes, something like that, right? So I worry sometimes that people who shout really loud will get their funding, whereas those who are just doing really good stuff don't get that funding. And I agree that we need to be the kind of eyes and ears out there to find the ones that are doing really good work, but not like going, give us the money because we're the best. So yeah, that's another.
Thank you, Councillor Winston. Just as a point of clarification, so obviously up until now, well, assuming that we pass this policy today, but up until now, the previous grants policy was each of the two committees, ENF and C&T, had a pot of grant money. Applications would go into them. They would be reviewed and then given out there. GNR had a separate pot. I think one of the issues was the fact that C&T didn't sit a number of times, and so that delayed the process, as Anne quite rightly articulated. So it's really, again, just trying to get the money out the door as quickly as possible. So I'm going to go to the vote. I'm conscious Councillor Jacobs has proposed, I know you said it was an amendment, but I believe it to be an actual substantive motion to refer back. So we'll take a vote for the actual policy first, and then if that doesn't pass, then we can take a vote on the proposed motion to refer back. Councillor Hubbock, did you want to add anything?
Depending on what happens in stage 1, if we end up at stage 2, is it possible to make an amendment to the alternate motion?
Yes, it would be possible at that point. I'm happy to propose the grants policy. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Thompson, all in favour? And against? Any abstentions? Okay, so I'll get the casting vote. I'll vote to pass it then, and we'll review if it needs to be reviewed if it doesn't work in the first year, which I think is what Councillor Wright was suggesting earlier. Very good. Okay, so we move on then. 7B. I'll pass back to Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, 7B, 2.EIs. Right, release of 7,600 from the contingency EMR for drainage works on the Killer Court. Is this for noting or this is for voting on it? Would you want? Yeah. So does anyone have any questions on said drain? Any sort of closet engineers in here that are going to come up with? No. So I'm happy to propose the recommendation that the contingency monies are released. Seconder, Councillor Slade. Thank you. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions?
I don't understand it.
You need to work on those closet engineering skills, Councillor Kenny. Thank you. Sorry?
No, it's voted through.
Yeah. No. Sorry.
Yeah, you're going to do the minutes as well. Oh, no, it's
ENF.
Apologies,
my
my apologies, looking at the wrong one. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. So I'll pass over 7C to the Vice Chair of ENF, or the previous Vice Chair of ENF, Councillor Slade.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to present the minutes from the Environment and Facilities Committee held on the 19th of March.
Thank you, Councillor Slade. Have a proposer then? Councillor Slade, seconder. Councillor Trumbull, all in favour? Sorry. Perfect, that's unanimous. Super, I'll pass back to Councillor Thompson for 7D, minutes of planning and licence.
Oh, brilliant, thank you. I'm happy to propose then the minutes from the 18th of February, the 3rd of March, the 18th of March and the 1st of April. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Carter, thank you. All those in favour? Wonderful, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you, Councillor Thompson. So we're now on item 8, open session for the electors of Newquay, verbal written questions. I don't think we have any written questions. We've got a couple of people in the gallery. Do you have a public question, sir? If you have a public question, just pop down to the microphone, press the green button, the red light will come on, and when that's on, you have, if you can say who you are.
Do I have to declare my position as well, or is it just a public question, Drew?
Well, we don't have a Cornwall Councillors item on this evening, so it would have to be a public question.
It's a public question.
To the full council.
It was just a procedural question, really. So I just noted the voting Councillor Creek in and the statements made by Councillor Slade regarding glyphosate. I just wanted to make sure that the accusations that I believe to be false, really, against Councillor Kenny in terms of the presentations made there. It's really important as councillors that we represent all of the people in our wards and that we look after not just the ones that vote for us. If false statements are made in support of a mayor at mayoral vote, I consider that to be significant. I spoke in Cornwall Council around glyphosate. The issue, I actually spoke that it was cancerous, and that people had the choice to use it, not use it. But
sorry, Councillor Barker, do you have a question?
So
Apologies.
The question is, So, does the council feel that it is significant, the use of glyphosate, because it's a process that we voted against and supported, the process of consultation, not the use of glyphosate. So it wasn't about use of glyphosate, it was allowing people to be consulted, right? Not just the people that would support that, but all of the people in Councillor Kenny's ward.
Sorry, Councillor Barker, I'm going to have to press you for a question.
And if that's the case, then the question is, do the council feel that the vote was fair given the proposing statement was inaccurate and I believe to be false? And if that swayed the vote, then I feel that the council may have an opinion or a possibility. It's obviously for Councillor Kenny to take forward, but that was my position. I just want to make sure that...
So to be clear, I think if any councillor feels that they were misrepresented in the chamber today, and I may well feel that way myself, then they have recourse with the monitoring officer at Cornwall Council, and they can and should contact that monitoring officer. I'm sure Councillor Kenny and I both know his email. Councillor Kenny, would you like to add something?
I was just going to thank you for that, but it's totally unnecessary. I actually did rather better than I expected to do, so don't worry about it.
Brilliant. I just want to, we're here to point things out, and it just seemed unfair.
Thank you, Councillor Barker. Do we have any other questions from the public gallery? No other questions. Thank you. So then moving on to item number 9, the annual review of Council's governance delegation arrangements and the committee structures. So we start with 9A, which is the scheme of delegation, the recently adopted scheme of delegation, I believe in the February meeting, wasn't it? And this is just re-adoption. Any amendments to any of these policies can be requested at committee level. So if we want to review any of this, it's to refer back to committee and it can be discussed there. This evening we are just voting to note them and adopt them for the year. So anyone have any questions on 9A? Councillor Jacobs.
Yeah, I guess it's just what can we do moving forward, given that as we're moving into this new scheme of delegation and within it's clearly saying that for the council we're to look at more strategic input into the direction of the council. I'd just like to see some sort of proposal of what that will actually look like and how because there'll be an item that's coming up next about the review of the committee structures. I'd really just like to get some clarity on how we can be involved in shaping the strategic direction. I think it's right that we give officers more delegation to get on and do their jobs, but I would love to see some sort of document that goes alongside this that starts to set out where the points are that we can start to, I guess, shape more what happens in that wider strategic, other than just saying, referring back to, well, we've got a corporate plan. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Jacobs. So I shall try and have a punt at this one, and if you need to jump in at any point, Andy, or any of the senior managers, indeed, please do so. I can't read your handwriting. So essentially, we have a corporate plan, as you just said, that sets the strategic direction of the council for the next, 3 years now. And we'll obviously look to review that at the end of the term. If there's something in terms of a strategic direction that you wish to review or change or add or remove, indeed, then you would need to bring that to one of the committees for discussion, and it can be appropriately debated there. Does that answer your question? Sort of. I'm trying to think of a really good example off the top of my head. It feels like it's been a long night already, so I haven't got a specifically good example. But please, Andy, do.
I think it probably will help. So the next phase, obviously this is a journey. We've only just put in place the scheme of delegation, and we're working in the background as a board of directors and your senior management team to put in place the decision making and the reporting back to members, so you can see every decision that's being made, whether you agree with it or not. You can then call it in and scrutinise at committee level, but we're busy in the background. That's why you're not seeing many decisions at the moment, because we're simply not making them. We're putting in the framework and getting everything how best we think council want it. So we're transparent and open to the public and to members. One of the things, as an example, that we're going to be working on in the background, I know Steve has started this work, is things like the marketing strategy for the council. So we may have a corporate plan saying we will run Visit Newquay and be a destination management organisation, but it doesn't say how we will do that. And so that is the next level of documentation, which, as you can imagine, is across the board. So it's not just marketing, it is going to be about every single service, how they operate, and that is very much sitting at council and committee level. So your committee structure will set out your strategy. We will devise it and develop it with the experts, and then it'll be for committees to actually say, yes, we agree with that, let's go with it. That's all underpinned with all your KPIs that you've agreed to, and there's going to be a piece of work there reviewing KPIs as well. So I think hopefully that's a bit of reassurance that there is a lot more work to be done, and there is another layer of documents which members will directly vote on and make sure is right for the council. It's not just, we've got a corporate plan, now let's deliver.
I think, clearly this is going to take some bedding in, isn't it? And we were talking just this evening about how we communicate better as a council. Clearly, we're going to be involved in less of the, kind of the operational decisions, i.e. what colour should we paint that wall? But the strategic direction is that we need that wall painted, and it needs to be, it needs to be well kept. And it's about how we communicate what's been going on, as Andy's articulated. Councillor Kenny.
Actually, I agree with you. I think it's very new and we have to work it out. But in the bad old days, we'd have descriptions like, how much loo paper are we going to buy for the toilets? Now, that was utterly ludicrous. So if somebody has got a budget and they've got a budget to buy toilet paper, we do not need the committee to actually make that decision. That's the sort of example we're talking about. I understand your concern about the strategic. I don't think the scheme of delegation is affecting the strategic approach. It should give you more time. I mean, I don't know how this socking great committee is going to work, mind you. So it's an interesting structure we're trying this time, but it's going to have a huge agenda and it's going to have an awful lot of councillors on it. But my understanding is that that committee will work out the top level strategy, and then somebody down below who understands these things will make the decision. And I just think it very, very much early days, and we'll just have to see how it works out.
Brilliant. So I'm happy to propose the scheme of delegation. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Thompson, all in favour? Any objections? Any abstentions? Did you vote for it, Councillor Morris? Were you with us?
Sorry, I was actually looking at something. I do apologise. I'll vote with it.
Was that a for, against, or an abstain?
I'll vote for it.
Thank you. So that's unanimous. Move on to item 9B. So this is the recommended committee structure and associated terms of reference. We discussed this at length last Monday at GNR. Essentially, to give some context, where we find ourselves particularly over the last few months, but particularly also over the last 12 months, is that there were a number of in-quorum meetings of C&T particularly. Since the scheme of delegation was enacted in February, actually what we also found was that the agenda packs for C&T and ENF, and bearing in mind ENF used to often go on for 3 hours, if you know, and struggle to finish all of its work, were so slimmed down because we weren't getting to the kind of the minute decisions, the operational stuff, that actually there were no real items to debate of substance on those agendas, and so it was thought that we should look at an alternative approach to committees moving into this new civic year. And so the recommendation is as listed under 9B. That would create a committee amalgamating essentially community and tourism and environment and facilities, with 1 chair, 2 vice chairs. Ideally, the 2 vice chairs each would have a specialism in either ENF or C&T, so that you've got that historic committee memory, and would take that forward. Now, we are again treading new water here. There's no guarantee that this is going to be perfect. I'm pretty sure it won't be, and that there will need to be tweaks along the way. But this is the proposal that we have on the table. I'd be happy to propose it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Thompson. And we'll take any questions. I'm sure there will be some. Councillor Jacobs. How did I know your hand was going to be up first?
Because this was the final piece that I said from the GNR, that I was unhappy, that I felt like we were rolling back on democracy, and I did ask the question about how strategy feeds into the work of the council and how we input into that wider, because I think what we've seen at the moment is we're moving forward in the scheme of delegation, in that so some of those questions that we do not need to be asked, i.e. how much toilet roll we need to buy, is going back to officers, which is right. But there's a real piece here in how us as councillors can shape what happens more strategically and wider in terms of the council. And so what we don't have at the moment is a committee structure that is able to create opportunities for us to feed in. For instance, there was a brilliant event that happened at the weekend, building on Councillor Hubbock's suggestion about the meet your councillor. So those things that come out of that community engagement, if they're going to go to what I see as a mega committee, which will look at basically, if you think about environment, tourism, communities, estates, it's such a big part of, it's pretty much 90%, 80% of what the council does is now going to be looked at in one committee. So you're going to have to be able to look through all of the, we have 2 roles, don't we? We're about inputting strategically, representing the voices of the public and the community, and then also providing scrutiny. That agenda is going to be quite significant. So I'm concerned that the size of that agenda will be a problem for us to be actually able to scrutinise all of the things that are going to come to that committee. And then secondly, how will we then able to put in an input into some of these more strategic things that we want to see going forward? So if we end up with action groups on tourism, on marketing, on toilets, on safety, like it feels like it's going to be a mega committee, a mega agenda, and we won't be able to do both. And so I argued against this at DNR, and I did say I was going to bring it back to full council, because I think again it's a move backwards, and we'll actually see less democracy and we'll see less scrutiny because we're going to have such a big mega committee. So I actually would like to see the council vote against this proposal and try, with a new scheme of delegation, with a new strategic direction of the 2 committees, because also the committees at the moment are quite functional. So when we say environment, we're talking more flower beds and those sorts of. But actually, the environment itself, if we think about climate crisis, the whole environmental agenda, that should be a place where you have genuine debate about the wider. That's what the wider issues, as opposed to scrutinising the functions of how we do gardens in the town. So that's just what I wanted to bring to council today.
So I think, just before I go on to Councillor Trumbull, I think what I would say is that a couple of the other issues that we've had historically over the years with C&T and ENF has been this crossover issue where it's never been particularly clear, where does the killer court sit, where do events sit, does part of that sits with ENF, part of that sits with C&T. So I do think that bringing them together in this way will overcome those issues as well. I have to say, whilst I have my reservations about this committee, as you do, I know, Councillor Jacobs, I can't say that I'd agree that it's in any way, what was the phrase that you used?
Rolling back democracy.
Rolling back democracy. I can't see that at all. And in fact, I would argue that it would give more opportunities for working parties, which I think is what you're trying to get to the crux of, working with the community. And I don't think, we talked about this at GNR, that wall there for the public gallery, whilst it's open, it is a clear divide, isn't it? And you can't have a two-way conversation with the public about anything meaningful through that wall. And so working parties, I think, are the way forward. And actually, I think that makes it much more nimble. And I don't think you could have the type of conversation you are talking about having in the current structure of committees either. So whilst I accept your concerns, and I also share them, I can't accept that it's rolling back on democracy. Councillor Trumbull, and then Councillor Williamson, Councillor Morris.
I just wanted to clarify a point about ENF is a bit more than sorting out gardens and flower beds and things, and in fact there's an enormous amount of work that goes into it, and I would like to say thank you to all those, particularly the chair and deputy chair of that, who do so much concerning the environment, and it covers a vast amount of work. So yeah, it's not just flower beds. And I would also like to second what Councillor Creek was saying about the working parties, which I think would be far more functional and give the ability to discuss far more in depth than not. And to have those committees combined with more working parties, I would see as the way forward and give more democracy, in fact.
Thank you, Councillor Trumbull. Councillor Williams, and then Councillor Morris, then Councillor Kenny.
Yeah, thank you for this. I think it is a big change, and obviously people respond to change in quite different ways. But I think, so I've historically just sat on planning, and then more recently I've sat as a substitute on tourism? Community and tourism. And that's where I have seen a lot of crossover between these two, like CCTV, for example, is like, where does that sit? Oh, it's there, and absolutely. So I do get the logic behind this change, without a doubt. I guess my slight concern is that, as somebody who probably won't be putting my hand up to sit on the mega committee, there could become a bit of a culture of them and us. So those of us who are very passionate about being on the town council and really keen to do great work here, however, have limitations because of our personal circumstances, we don't have as much time to dedicate it, whereas there's other people in the room who are able to find more time, and I need to go to their school, I think. But so I want to put a registered plea out there that I don't want to have this kind of environment where it's, we find, like to your point from earlier, is actually things happen and you're playing catch up all the time because the paperwork already is quite exceptional. So yeah, that's my kind of concern, is that the council around this, and we have all together done a huge amount of work over the last couple of years to try to make it as equal. Everybody's equal here. So yeah, that's my concern, I guess.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Councillor Morris.
I know it's a while ago, but I've actually sat on both committees, and I've seen actually the meetings extend. So how on earth you're going to get 2 of them in 3 hours, I have got no idea. Even with the, 2 hours in, you can extend to 3. So you're going to be extending every meeting and probably having extraordinary meetings to finish what you haven't done in the first place. So I cannot see the point of taking it to, it used to be 4 committees and then they changed it to 3. Now you want to change it to 2. That, I'm sorry, I agree with Jesse. I think it's going backwards.
So I think I'd accept what you're saying in a previous paradigm, but you obviously haven't been to ENF and C&T since we changed the scheme of delegation, Councillor Morris, and actually the last time we had an ENF meeting, I think we only had 1 item on the agenda, and we were done in a ridiculously short amount of time. So you know, I accept it from what it used to be, but it's changed a lot since that scheme of delegation. But thank you for your input. Councillor Kenny.
I think my initial reaction is, thank God I'm on planning. Just practically speaking, you're going to have 1 meeting, well, it's not, is it going to be 9 meetings a year? Is the quorum going to be 6? I think we have to say to all the councillors who aren't on planning, it's absolutely vital that you make this meeting. It's not, I mean, you have to only in the most exceptional, I mean, everybody gets sick, everybody gets their mother-in-law coming to stay or whatever, but it really is, I mean, we manage on planning to have a meeting every other week. And we normally show up because if we go and core it, we just have it the week afterwards. So we get punished if we don't make our meeting core. We have done really well, but we all work incredibly hard to make that meeting core it. And I think there's something I have to say to the non-planners amongst you, you're going to have a bit of discipline because 6 people really aren't enough to, I assume the quorum is 6, isn't it? Yeah, 6 people are not enough to deal with the amount of work you're doing. And I totally agree about the working parties. That's the way to do it.
So yes, quoracy of 6, 12 members, 8 meetings a year to answer those questions. Councillor Jacobs, you've already had 1 bite of the cherry. But come back.
Yeah, no, this was just to say that Gillian made a brilliant point, and I really know that the environment and facilities do a whole lot more, because I've seen that your agendas are huge, and actually you make a case in point that it's already a huge agenda. They look at a significant amount. I don't think we've ever had an agenda that's less than a few hundred pages for community and tourism. So we'll now be having a mega agenda for a mega committee and working groups where we'll also have to attend. And we as town councillors are all volunteers. We all manage this around other commitments. In terms of trying to get a council that represents the broad society, that means that we want to have parents, we want to have younger people, we want to have people who run businesses, we want to have people who are retired. That means that the amount of work that we can take on alongside being an open and inclusive council has really got to be thought about. And it's such a shame that we won't have people like Councillor Williamson on our committees, because I really value what she brings. I really value those thoughts. And it means that we won't have her voice in terms of scrutinising, because we're creating a mega committee that, as Joanna said, we're going to have to turn up to do it well. And I feel like we've moved to this idea to tackle this thing about not being quorate and not having stuff on the agenda. And actually what it would have been great to see is a different way of doing things. We haven't got a proposal of different working groups that we could have. We're going to have this big committee, and then we'll work everything out from there. So I'm registering my concerns. I don't think we have to vote for it. It's not a done deal. This is what full council is for, to really think through the decisions, to scrutinise them, and then we go from there. So that's all I wanted to end with. And thank you for everyone and who sits on those committees for the brilliant work that you've done throughout the year.
Thank you, Councillor Jacobs. Councillor Slade, very quickly, then Councillor Hubbox, and then Councillor Martin.
Yeah, very quickly. I think what it really does is it's more involvement for the councillors. I think when you sit on separate committees, you're not quite aware of what everyone's doing. And with the new efficiencies, we won't be having so long to debate the stuff on our agendas. We'll be able to work through them and take strategic decisions. But obviously, working parties are the way that people can specialise. I'm particularly looking forward to who's going to volunteer for the toilet working party. But as the other thing is, it's like ENF as well has a large chunk of the budget, and it's like it'd be really important, I think, that all the councillors are aware to see where the money goes, and you'll be able to see that on this new mega committee. So I think in a way it's going to be more inclusive rather than the divisions of the two committees and the overlaps. So that's why I think it's a good idea.
Thanks, Councillor. So, Councillor Hubbocks.
Just quickly, I wondered over the last couple of years if we know how many meetings haven't gone ahead for being in court, because I think this last year quite a few of C&T didn't go forward, and I think the year before that I have a memory when I worked for BID, a lot of the C&T meetings didn't happen because they were in court, and I think, I don't know, but I wonder if we have the responsibility to try something different if we can see it's not working. I'm not sure, but I think if we go for working parties and we can give that a good go, working groups, working parties, and give it a good go.
Thank you, Councillor Hubbocks. Councillor Martin.
Thank you. I think what I want to say is probably extremely naive, but I'm going to say it anyway. This mega committee that we're talking about, I'm thinking, surely that's the council. But there's only 20 of us. I've been to committee meetings when there's 60 and 80 people. They're horrendous, I know, but I've been to them. And so I'm just thinking, are we putting in a level that we don't actually need? And that we're, and this is where my naivety comes in, because I'm thinking that from the work that we do in the council meeting, and the full council meeting, and that we might need to up our attendance, you know, have them every month or every 6 weeks or whatever it is. And then from the council meeting, we either volunteer or get allocated to the working parties. Is that a possibility, or is that just... And so that the conversations and the discussions can take place in the working parties, and that we bring that back, and round it goes again somehow. I'm just a bit concerned that we're having multiple layers and multiple meetings that we don't actually need.
Thank
Perhaps
you.
You can clarify for me.
Yeah, sure. So I think what you propose is technically possible, and I think though that would be a step much further than what's been proposed this evening in terms of, you know, 3 committees essentially: C&E, GNR, and planning. I think to put everything through full council would be lengthy and laborious, and actually I think really for full council historically, and I think moving forward it's really about strategic sign-off, ensuring that we are managing the finances in the right way, and of course, and I know we haven't had a great deal recently, but I'd certainly encourage all of you to think moving forward, and I think we have some nominations for some coming up, motions that affect our community to be put on full council agendas. So that said, I think this is a stepping stone towards what you're talking about, and actually if this doesn't work and we find that there's still you know, isn't enough here to sustain a committee, then yeah, we could certainly look at it. But my gut feeling is that there will be enough there to sustain a committee over 8 meetings over 12 months. And of course, if that doesn't work, if it becomes too much, as Councillor Jacobs and Councillor Kenny are suggesting, or if it's too little, as I still think, you know, actually there won't be a huge amount on those agendas given the scheme of delegation. But clearly we haven't worked through that in any meaningful way because we've only just adopted it in February. So we're going on what we've already got. All I know personally is we can't go on, as Councillor Hubbock said, keep having in-quorum meetings because that doesn't serve anyone's purpose, not least of all, you know, the officers that are here for those meetings, and then last minute people don't turn up and therefore it's a wasted evening. So I'll go to Councillor Spry and then I'm going to go to the vote because I'm conscious it is 8:10. We have a raft of policies to go through, ideally before 9 o'clock. So Councillor Spry.
Yeah, just very, very quickly. I quite like that idea, but I think it'd be hard on the planning committee because we'd end up doing 2 fortnightly planning and then full council as well every month. It'd be hard on us, I think.
We do it anyway.
We do it anyway.
Fortnightly planning and then also monthly full council.
We do it anyway.
Well, I think we have. Okay. So I've proposed. Did I have a second? Councillor Thompson. All in favour? Objections? Abstentions? 1. Kat, did you vote? Thank you. Did you catch that? Yeah, perfect. Super. Okay, that passes then. Thank you, everyone. So item 9C, to determine the time and place of ordinary meetings of the council up to and including the next annual meeting of the council. So you've got the proposed calendar, and Councillor Morris, I'm going to draw your attention to this item because every year you say you haven't had sight of this calendar, and every year I think I say this, or certainly have the last couple of years, that it is in your pack. Please make a note of those, and I know that the officers will send out electronic calendar invites to committees, so to membership of those committees. So questions, Councillor Kenny.
Yeah, it's the August-September thing. You've got a holiday in August, at the beginning of August, and then you've got a meeting at the beginning of September. The only meetings in August are, needless to say, planning. Would it not be better to have a meeting in August which then finishes the quarter and then have a month off in September? I know we've done that before.
So I'll jump in, and I'm sure Andy will want to jump in. I think previously there was a significant amount of pushback about council meetings at the beginning of August, given it's a busy season and board masters happens that week. I know Councillor Morris has certainly articulated that even to me this evening before the meeting. And that was all I wanted to say on that. Did you want to speak, Andy?
Because personally, I think having holidays in council is not a good idea anyway. I think we should have a meeting every month, first Wednesday of the month, because that's what our public expect. They aren't into the intricacies of when do we have our 2 holidays? Is it December and August? It's not that I mind having November.
November and August, there is not a full council in November.
Okay, so let's bring this a bit more to order. Thank you. Andy.
Yes, so the reason we normally have a gap in August, one, historically members wish to have that break because of how busy it is during August for a number of people that run businesses or have other commitments such as childcare. The second point I want to make is obviously that's the start of budget setting, and as you can imagine there is a lot of prep that goes into getting all the paperwork out, planning which committee has to receive what information and when, and trying to close down accounts. So that period of time is very useful operationally as well for getting that budget process underway, meeting with managers internally and looking at all the cost centres for last year and forecasting. So it's helpful. But it's down to members.
Thank you. Councillor Brooke, then Councillor Morris.
On a completely unrelated front, can we encourage the members of the public who've just left to either close the door or move on, because it's very distracting.
Thank you, Councillor Brooke. I think they've gone now. Councillor Morris.
I'd like to bring to people's attention April the 27th. April 27, there is not 3 planning in that month, there is only 2. You have us going every week, which is 7th, 14th and 21st. That is wrong.
It's because we changed the 31st.
Yeah, go.
I'll just clarify that there is a new version of the draft schedule of meetings, and that only shows two planning members on the planning meetings on the 14th and the 28th, with the GNR reserve date on the 26th. Members will note that planning is proposing a change from December onwards till next year, and that's to try and avoid having Tuesday meetings because it was hitting the same night as full council. So by moving it 1 week in December, it unlocks that and it doesn't happen for the year. So that's the change that planning have proposed.
Very good. Any other questions before we go to the vote? No, I'm happy to propose the schedule. Sorry, Councillor. We're voting on the schedule. I know, it's a bit like that, isn't it? We're voting on the schedule of meetings for this current civic year. So I'm happy to propose. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Morris. All in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you. 9D, Selection Working Party. Selection Working Party, well, didn't meet in person, but certainly virtually by email. And happily, I think everyone got their first choice, didn't they, on the committee structure? So unless anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to propose. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Taylor, all in favour? Thank you. Any objections? Abstentions? No. Okay. 9E, Planning and Licensing Interim Arrangements. Sorry? Oh, we don't need that one.
Before you move on,
Councillor Kenny.
just to note that there is a second vacancy for substitute along with Margaret North. Is there any volunteers to actually put their name forward for that vacancy?
So if there's any volunteers that would like to be a substitute on planning and licensing, please email into the office and we will review those applications and work with the new chair and vice chair of planning when they're established to fill that vacancy. Is that okay?
There are biscuits. There we go.
Sometimes there's cake.
Okay, so 9F1. So that's so review the adoption of appropriate standing orders, financial regulations, and code of conduct. And we're on to receive and adopt the standing orders. Does anyone have any questions on the standing orders? I don't think that they've changed very much, Councillor Kenny.
Oh, really? Because I was trying to discover. We used to have something in the standing orders which says that if somebody actually said something that was untrue, that you could call a point of order on that. But there's nothing, that appears to have gone by the wayside. And the other one is actually what happened today, because I found it very uncomfortable. It is very, very unusual for the sitting mayor to be standing for his third term. And I found it very uncomfortable that you were actually chairing the meeting, so that when I was attacked, you weren't in a position to say there should have been an independent chair at that point. So hopefully it will never occur again. But I do think that when there is an election for anything, that the chair should not be one of the candidates.
Andy, did you want to come in on that one?
Yeah, I'm just very quickly trying to double check whether it's bold, because if it's a bold item, that's in regulation where the mayor has to chair the first item of business. That also follows through to if they're not re-elected as a councillor, they still come back as the mayor for that one item of that one meeting, and then they disappear as a member.
I've seen that. The problem this time is, of course, normally our convention is that the mayor stands down at the end of one term, let alone three. So effectively, it should never have occurred. But in this case, I think we should be looking to make an exception because it was very uncomfortable.
I think Andy will take that one away, and happy to offer any advice to GNR, and indeed that would come back to full council if there were any amendments. So I'm happy to propose the standing orders. I have a seconder. Councillor Wright, all in favour? Thank you. Any objections? Councillor Kenny is objecting to the standing orders. 9F2, to receive and adopt the financial regulations. Does anyone have any queries or questions for the RFO on the financial regulations? No, I'm happy to propose. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Thompson, all in favour? Thank you. Got off lightly there, Anne. 9F3, to receive and re-adopt the existing members' model code of conduct. This is the Cornwall Code and it is unamended. I'm happy to propose. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Thompson, any questions? All those in favour? Any objections? Abstentions? No. So 9G, review of the arrangements with other local authorities, not-for-profit bodies and businesses. So this is a list of leases that Newquay Town Council currently has and a list of legal arrangements. Does anyone have any questions? This is not a first, though it is presented in a different format, so it seems far more transparent than I've previously witnessed it, as I noted earlier this evening. So thank you for that, officers. I'm happy to propose. Do I have a seconder? Anyone? Councillor Wright? All in favour? Any objections? Abstentions? No. Very good. 9H, review of the inventory of land and other assets, including buildings and office equipment. Does anyone have any questions on this? So this is just an asset list. Councillor Williamson.
Sorry, I'm not sure if this question is appropriate for now or another time, but I remember a couple of years ago we had a conversation in this room about how to make sure that our assets were working in a more beneficial way for Newquay as a town, and that meant, I think, both financially, so making sure that they were financially working harder for us, but also more meaningfully working harder for us as well. And I was just wondering, maybe not today, but at the next meeting, whether we could have an analysis of that.
Yeah, absolutely, no problem at all. I think certainly that's a GNR issue, but I'm happy to bring it here as a report at the next available opportunity. I think what you're talking about is sweating the assets that the council has, which I think we're doing pretty well on compared to 2 years ago, and certainly with the bits and pieces. Yes, yeah.
I can hear you, Councillor Thompson.
Financial assets, as in estate, essentially.
Yes,
I think is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So the car park, the buildings, that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think the term sweating the assets it jars a little bit for me, because it almost suggests that we want to fleece people for renting out our offices and things like that. And whilst we could possibly look at the rental cost of some of the offices, I think it's actually a broader conversation.
For sure. Happy to have a report come to an upcoming full council meeting that can give you some of the detail, historic and current and future plans indeed that I know we have in place. Yeah, do you want to do that via email? Call it in if we need to. So okay.
Yeah, that's great, because obviously having a full killer court is much more important than having one full paying customer there.
Sure.
So it's just about the right balance.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Thank you, Councillor Williamson. So I'm happy to propose the review of the inventory of land and other assets, including buildings and office equipment. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Thompson, all in favour? Any objections or abstentions? No. 9I, confirmation of arrangements for insurance cover in respect of all insurable risks. Does anyone have any questions on any of this? This is all just for obviously adopting and noting. No, I'll propose. I have a seconder. Councillor Thompson, all in favour? Thank you. 9J, review of council subscriptions and direct debits to other bodies. I think this is a first this year, so much more transparent. So thank you for that, officers. Anyone got any questions? No? I'm happy to propose those. Councillor Kenny.
Process question, because we used to be forbidden to have direct debits. So is that the law has now changed? Because it made no sense at all. But
is it general power competence? Sorry, go on.
There's general power competence, but there are changes in the financial regulations, and provided the council makes clear in terms of direct debits and signs them off each year, it is perfectly fine. If anything, it actually protects us a little bit more.
Thank you. Any other questions? No, I'm happy to propose. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Williamson. All in favour? Any objections, abstentions? No. 9K. Sorry, guys, I appreciate this isn't the most thrilling. 9K, review of the council's complaints procedure. Anyone got any questions on the complaints procedure?
Very minor amendments to include stage 2 parts of the complaints, to have directors, not me, handle those. It's to reduce the number of cases where councillors would have to form an appeals panel and hear relatively minor complaints, and also some title changes as well through the document. There should be track changes on the one version that shows every change that's happened.
Right, okay, so 9K then, I'm happy to propose. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Thompson, all in favour? Any objections, abstentions? Are you abstaining? Abstain? Okay, Councillor Morris. 9L, this is quite a big one. Review of the Council's policies, procedures and practices in respect of its obligations under the Freedom of Information and Data Protection legislation. You can thank our data protection officer for this long list of policies, which can be reviewed at committee at any point. We are voting them for noting this evening. Adoption. So I'm happy to propose. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wright. And does anyone have any questions on the policies listed in front of you? Will is waiting anxiously for his moment here. Yeah. Is there anything you want to say on these, Will? Are you?
No, there's a covering report and a glossary, so I think you're okay.
Very good. Anyone have any burning questions? No? Okay, so we've got a proposer, me, Councillor Wright second. All in favour? Thank you very much. Nick, did you not vote?
I did, sorry, I think it was behind the ear.
Oh, right, okay. The reflection off your shirt obviously blinded us to it. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, just coming on this, a member of the public brought to my attention they're after a safeguarding policy. So I've requested that it's going to be brought forward at the next G&R. So, and to have it updated. I mean, we follow basically Cornwall Council safeguarding, but obviously we haven't got it labelled on there. So if you feel that there is something missing that you would like a policy on, please make us aware, you know, make people aware, and we can work on it in terms of if you have any bright ideas. There's a gap. Councillor Kenny, sorry. Yes. Oh, don't. Oh. All right, okay, yeah, go for it.
Visitors sign-in book. We have a policy on that.
We do.
Can we get a new one that isn't as awful as the one that we're signing in at the moment?
I would strongly agree.
We're just waiting to finish it before we buy a new one. Is that the problem?
Basically, I mean, we are looking at a different system that is more compliant with GDPR, but as you can imagine, we're weighing up costs versus actual usage, and it's more about a function for fire regulations. So we're trying not to spend too much money on something that really is a regulatory thing. But yes, absolutely take your point, and we'll feed that back.
Councillor Brooke.
Can I suggest we have a working party to resolve this issue?
Are you volunteering, Councillor Brooke? Yeah, okay. Councillor Jacobs, did you have a question? Or?
No, mine was just a little statement. It's absolutely horrible, that thing. I'd like to throw it in the bin.
Thank you. We are still talking about the signing in book, right?
Yes.
Very good. Councillor Jacobs.
Mine was on the responsible use of AI at work. I just noticed that Claude wasn't on there, and it was recommended that you use ChatGPT, but there's lots of discussion around AI and which ones are good and useful and responsible. So I would ask that that one's reviewed, because I'd like to see other options. I don't think it's the right policy to say that all officers should either use chat and Claude isn't mentioned in there. So for people who aren't using, there's different, it's a bit like Microsoft and Google, there's different providers of AI services, and some of them are seen as slightly more ethical than others. I just think that policy should, because things are changing quite significantly and very quickly, I think that should be a policy that we maybe keep our eyes on. I was at the LGA and AI meeting. They're doing some briefings at the moment, which is quite useful to keep on top of what's coming out in terms of sort of wider local government and AI usage. So that was just a comment on that one.
Yeah, I think it's a good shout, and I think, very pertinent. I feel like I'm in a personal relationship with Claude at this point. Will, did you want to come in?
Hi, yeah, so I'm happy to take the specifics out of that, but the main point that's making is actually that we just require staff and councillors to use an enterprise level account, so it doesn't really matter from our perspective which service you've chosen to use at the moment, as council hasn't sort of taken a position on any particular one. But it's more about not using a free account. So if anyone was to use a free account and put sensitive information into it, then the data isn't protected. If you're using a paid enterprise level account, it doesn't matter which. So I can take the specifics out of that. I'm happy to do that. It's more about the point about using an enterprise level account, basically. Thank you for that clarification. I think it's really helpful. Jesse?
Does that mean that councillors can claim back the costs of subscribing to enterprise?
No, that doesn't. No. I think we got Copilot on our IT, so we've got. Okay, very good. But we pay for that, obviously, so that is available to all councillors.
Yeah, happy to talk about paid Copilot accounts and any other AI accounts that councillors may want to use. But if you're going to use it, if you're going to put sensitive information into it, we need to have a conversation and make sure that you're using the right level of account, regardless of which service it is.
Finally,
could we maybe have a briefing for councillors? Because it looks like there's just been a staff briefing, but maybe other councillors would be interested in coming to a briefing on AI. Yeah.
Councillor Taylor.
My workplace has a ethical procurement policy, and I think that would kind of suit the people that we are in this room quite well, and might mean that we might not have ended up with ChatGPT in the first place. You know how I feel. I have big feelings around this, and I really do love Claude, but he's a great guy. But yeah, maybe that's a policy that we could have if people wouldn't mind writing it.
Yeah, happy to pull that forward to GNR. You're right to pick that one up, Andy. Yeah, so we'll pull that. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. So, Will, did you want to come in?
Just to reiterate the point that this is specifically about data protection, and there's a much wider conversation to be had about AI. Very good. I've lost my place now. We voted on all those policies, didn't we? Yes. Yeah, we're now on 9M. Review of the council's policy for dealing with the press and the media. Neither of which present this evening. Any questions? I don't think it's changed particularly. Councillor Wright.
Just a question around this and the comms, the marketing and comms that was mentioned earlier about you working on that particular piece. Will that change this in the next 12 months, or will it amend any of this, or is it going to sit adjacent to this? How's that working?
Okay, so I haven't written anything to date. I
You're working on it.
I had a conversation with both yourself and Councillor Jacobs about the need to have that strategy that sits behind the Visit Newquay brand now, in terms of the demographics you might want to target, where you would do that piece of work, and the channels you might use. So my view is that I'll write a report for the committee. You'll agree on a pathway forwards with that piece of work, and to scope that properly, and then we'll go away and see how we could commission that activity and what budgets we've got, and then obviously build into that a load of stakeholder consultation events and activity, so that it's an independent piece of work. That would obviously include members of the committee, it would include bid, it would include experiential sectors in the town, as well as accommodation providers, food and drink, all of those sorts of people that would need to make that happen. So that piece of work would be steered by the committee as the strategic oversight, and we would bring that piece of work back so that it's fully embedded as a piece of work through the committee. That's
Thanks,
the plan.
Steve.
I haven't scoped that out in any more detail other than in my head currently.
Councillor Kenny.
Where are we? Are we on 9M?
We are.
Right. I'm not quite sure what I think you probably have just explained it and I haven't. It says review of the council's policy for dealing with the press media. It's clearly out of date. I mean, second page has error, bookmark not defined. So you're saying we're not approving that now, we're approving the fact that you're going to have a review.
So what we're doing now is we are readopting the policy that we had last year and indeed for the last few years, and there is a commitment from Steve and the comms team as well as the marketing team to review the policy ongoing, is what I heard. So
yeah, I remember agonising over this one, but
yeah,
because it's got an error bookmark not defined on it, which is page.
Yes, I can see that.
It clearly needs something on it.
Yeah, so imminent.
So effectively, are we saying we can adopt it as it is now because it is about to be reviewed?
Correct. Happy to propose. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wright, all in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. 9N. So these are HR policies. We've got our HR manager, Harriet, here with us. So if you've got any questions on any of these policies, which we are adopting tonight, then please make yourself be heard. Councillor Kenny.
Really? Are these the final form, or are we going to be doing a review over the coming year?
So these have been updated for this year. The main amendments are any changes to job titles, including any directors now that we have in position. So when they're leading on disciplinary meetings or recruitment, anything like that. And then the staff handbook has just been updated with all the legislation that's changed this year, because there's been quite a lot of change with employment law this year.
Fundamentally, this is it.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, and these went through G&R. I know that Councillor North had a couple of queries. I think those have been included, and obviously we've got at least one new policy here that we didn't have before. So, as always, can be reviewed at G&R, working with the HR manager. Councillor Williamson.
I'd just like to say that I'm very pleased to see that there's a policy on menopause included in it, and that it's seen to be more mainstream these days, and I'm very pleased to see that the council is adopting it. As somebody who is exceptionally menopausal, as I can probably demonstrate in this meeting by forgetting half the things I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. And that happens to be one of the new policies, isn't it? So well done. So I'm happy to propose. Sorry, Councillor Brooke, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have to confess that I didn't read every single word of this tranche of policies. The thought I'm going to bring forward here was on the back of that, actually. Some of the changes that have been brought in by my own employer, I won't say any more than that, are that there is some very supportive guidance around nursing and around providing spaces for breastfeeding and other activities that are related. And I'm just wondering, is there anything in the policies that are before us that is providing or trying to facilitate that?
Yes, so we have, so we do recognise that when, someone returns from maternity leave and they are breastfeeding, that they need to have that safe space, and that is in the policy, yeah.
Okay. So happy to propose. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Thompson, all in favour? Councillor Morris, were you for or against?
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Harriet. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you for all the really beautiful policies. I think I only got this bundle about a week ago, and I have done my best, but I haven't read everything. And so I was wondering if in future, when there's like so much hard work put in by you guys, if we had a little bit more time to read things. I mean, maybe we still wouldn't, because it's so much reading and we're all busy people, but like, I'd like to give you the appreciation that you deserve, but I didn't get to look at everything, so.
I think that's a fair point. I think we have to do this by law. We have to adopt these each year, but there's nothing to stop us taking 2 or 3 of these policies and sticking them on each full council or G&R to have a review of those ongoing, if that's something council would like. I know, so I'm a governor in a couple of different places, and certainly that's what we do. We break the policies down sort of meeting by meeting so that we can have a good chance to review them, because I do appreciate that this evening's pack will have been well over 1,000 pages of documents to review. Laura's nodding because did you presumably had to print some of these, did you? Oh my goodness. The trees. Happy to look at that going forward if we want to have a proper deep dive into a couple of those policies a meeting. I think that's a sensible way forward. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Okay, so I'm happy to propose. I think Councillor Thompson. No, we've done that already and we've moved on. So 9.0. Review of the Council risk management policies, strategic risk assessments and disaster recovery and business continuity policies. It's a mouthful, isn't it? Any questions on this? No. I'm happy to propose. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Trumbull, all in favour? Thank you very much, that's unanimous. 9P. Review of the Council's environmental policy and climate strategy. And I want to say this now to the C&E committee, is that we really need to review particularly the existing climate strategy, which I think Councillor Larson was looking at reviewing a couple of years ago, but we never quite got to the end of it. So it'd be good to have an updated version of that. A lot's changed, doesn't it? So I'm happy to propose. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Slade. Any questions on any of those policy? Councillor Taylor.
The environment policy is so out of date. I was wondering if it would be not a good idea to wave it through, or if it's the same as what we were just talking about a minute ago, where it's well, it's going to be reviewed soon, so let's just say yes now and review it in a bit. I just wasn't sure what the right thing to do was.
So we have to adopt a policy. This is the only policy that we have in front of us. So I would propose that we adopt this policy, and the first item that we add to the new committee, their first meeting, is to review with officers the environmental operational procedure, the biodiversity policy, worth reviewing anyway, particularly in light of some recent developments, and the existing climate strategy. So if we can add those to the agenda, that'd be great. So I'm proposing, do I have a seconder? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Slade second, didn't he? All in favour? Thank you. Abstain from Councillor Morris. 9Q, review of the Council's expenditure incurred under Section 137 of the Local Government Act of the General Power of Competence. Does anyone have any questions on this? Andy, do you want to explain what?
Yeah, so as we're a general power of competence council, all of our expenditure falls under that, and that's why there's a statement instead of a list of Section 137 spends. Section 137 is basically for parish and town councils that haven't adopted the power. They get an element quoted by the government each year of what you can spend per electorate each year on the well-being of the town. So it doesn't form one of the legal statutory obligations the council should be doing. It's kind of useful money to spend on something you wish to do locally. We don't do that because everything is power of general competence.
Thanks, Andy. I genuinely couldn't have said that better myself. So I'm going to propose that. Does anyone want to second that? No one? Councillor Slade, all in favour? We're nearly there, guys. Nearly there. 9R, review of the Council's annual investment strategy. Questions to Anne? Have we got any? No, this was adopted by GNR. If there's any reviews or queries going around this, we can obviously pick those up at GNR, and it can be amended at any point. I'm happy to propose. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Thompson. All in favour? Thank you. Abstain from Councillor Morris. Very good. So item 10, correspondence. Did we have any? I don't think we did we? And then we don't need item 11. Item 12, Chairman's Other Business. Firstly, to thank all of those councillors that took part in Councillor Hubbocks's wonderful suggestion of couple with your councillor on Saturday at the market. I hear it was a brilliant affair, and I've been really pleased to see the outputs that have come via email, and whilst many of those were relating to Cornwall Council items and not Newquay Town Council, I think any opportunity to engage with the electorate in Newquay and really help them understand what we do here is wonderful. So I'm looking forward to the next one, which presumably would be at the next market. But we obviously can have those anywhere, and they don't have to be solely on the Killicourt. Councillor Kenny.
I think I was on holiday, so I didn't do it, and I gather it did chuck it down with rain. I thought it was very interesting, the comments that were coming back, but it also struck me that some of the questions, are particularly on the cleanliness one, and can we do this, can we do that, and can we do the other? You need to be aware they've got this thing called Newquay Clean, which we are involved with. I'm not sure if there's actually... Newquay Town Council tends to be there as a provider of cleanliness stuff, but I'm not sure there's anybody there who actually is coming in with that sort of question, because it's an old sort of question we've always had. Can we change the routine? Can we do it in the morning? And that is the route I think we need to go in. There are also questions on derelict buildings, and that is a complete and utter nightmare, as I'm sure some of you have noticed, but we are doing our best on that one. But again, it sort of feeds into, and a lot of the questions were being asked, we had that information coming out of the working party, so it's just really just a question of getting the liaison correctly on that one.
Sorry, Comms is working up a cheat sheet and some frequently asked questions off the back of the couple with your councillor, and I'm sure that there will be further questions on those items. It's a point of education, isn't it? But well done. So well done, Councillor Hubbocks, for proposing it, and well done for all those councillors that took the time on Saturday to spend some time at the market. Thank you. And then the other item that I wanted to mention was, sadly, today we received, after 3 years of exceptional service to this town, the resignation of our town crier, Simon Anderson-Jones. Genuinely gutting. Simon's done some amazing work over the last 3 years as our town crier, and he unfortunately has moved out of Newquay, so feels that it wouldn't be appropriate to serve as the town crier, though he did share one last, and I don't know if I'm going to say this right, oh yay, yeah, which we will share with you, and we will, I'm sure, post on our social medias, because Simon has done some exceptional work, and I'll be reaching out to Simon to thank him for that work, but of course I wanted to share with you all the sad news that Simon is resigning. We will, of course, be holding auditions for a new town crier over the summer, and what that looks like has yet to be determined, but we'll work with our events manager, Amy, and Molly, to find our new town crier. Very sad, very sad. But thank you, Simon, for all you've done, if you're watching. Very good. So other things to mention, this Sunday marks the first community Eid celebration on the Killicourt, working with Mo and the team from Zaman's Restaurant. I'm sure many of you frequented that wonderful Indian restaurant in our town. They're putting on a wonderful celebration of Eid on the Killicourt, working alongside us at the Town Council. So I'd hope to see many of you there. The festivities begin at 12:30. Our local MP will be in attendance, and there are many community organisations represented at that event, and I hope that as a town we can come together in the celebration of community and Eid on Sunday at the Killicourt. So thank you for that. Councillor Morris, did you have something?
I'm not here. I'm away on the Sunday.
Thank you. I'll send your apologies. Date of the next meeting is Wednesday the 3rd of June, 7 p.m, usual place. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good evening. We can do AOBs. Sorry, I didn't have any AOBs.